Hey everyone, it's Pastor Scott Fielder. Welcome to another edition of Hope Lutheran Church in Hollywood's online midweek devotional. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe on either of those platforms so that you can get notifications about not only when this goes live, but also our online Sunday service as well. Our reading for this week is from Psalm 119, verses 65 through 72. You have dealt well with your servant, O Lord, according to your word. Teach me good judgment and knowledge, for I believe in your commandments. Before I was humbled, I went astray, but now I keep your word. You are good and do good. Teach me your statutes. The arrogant smear me with lies, but with my whole heart I keep your precepts. Their hearts are fat and gross, but I delight in your law. It is good for me that I was humbled, so that I might learn your statutes. The law of your mouth is better to me than thousands of gold and silver pieces. Here ends the reading. If there is one quality that one might say is universally revered in others, is those who are considered to be wise, have lots of knowledge. We gain knowledge in many ways, whether it's through the study of a particular subject or maybe just by experiencing something firsthand. You know, when we're young, life teaches us these great lessons, like when we're not supposed to touch things, that are hot because we'll get burned, or why we're not supposed to run on a slippery surface like ice. As time has gone by and the amount of information that we have access to, the kind of knowledge that we can, read, that we can't read, in books, the knowledge that we have to learn firsthand or maybe has to be passed along by someone else is becoming more and more valuable because we simply have these little computers in our pockets and we can walk around and just type in a question and boom, we have a bunch of different answers from different sources. And this can be difficult, sometimes, because getting the kind of experience that, you can't get, from Google, getting those kinds of answers, it can sometimes come at a price, whether it's having to take a risk that you don't necessarily want to take. Maybe you're in a very different environment, than you're used to, and you have to, be in that space whether you like it or not, and you have to adapt and learn how to be in said space. In these experiences, we learn things like good judgment and know that, when we fail, we have to bounce back and we have to kind of get up and we have to try again. Being humbled from time to time is a good thing, as our psalmist writes. We realize that maybe we aren't as, slick as we think we are, and that, maybe, when we just try and get away with little things, here and there, it won't necessarily have that much of an effect, or it won't hurt anyone. But then we see even these little things have consequences, and, our actions, we, realize that maybe we were arrogant in a sense when we were thinking that we could get away with such things. The psalmist also writes about the desire to be taught good judgment and knowledge, and that they believe in the commandments. And I think when it comes to Christianity and being people of faith, the commandments are always something that we can turn to. It's something that we can gain a good deal of knowledge from. There are many things, that the commandments move us and call us to do and to not do. But the one thing that they are all rooted in is love. If we are practicing love towards our neighbor, surely we would not falsely accuse them, physically harm them, steal from them. That's why in Jesus' ministry, he stresses this concept that the greatest commandment of all is to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, strength, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. So we see wisdom as, this thing that takes all of this, experience and all of this time, to acquire. It takes sacrifice. Sometimes it means taking risks, finding ourselves in positions where, we have to do, something, whether we maybe like it or not. Maybe that experience is thrust upon us without, our consent. But Jesus sort of simplifies it into one thing: love. And maybe sometimes we are making it a little too complicated, or sometimes maybe we think it is, more simple than it maybe actually is. We don't always know for sure, but I don't know about you, but I'm glad that, love is a good place to start. Just loving our neighbors as ourselves. And, doing as God does with us. The psalmist says, "You are good and do good, but now I keep your word." It is good for me to be humbled in that God has dealt well with God's servant. And again, we must look to that example, and in that we find Jesus, God incarnate, who shows us how to deal and how to be with one another, and that is truly more valuable than thousands of gold and silver pieces. Amen.